Unlootable loot rooms. This is a name given by Rust base builders to loot room designs where boxes are code locked, and if they are destroyed, the stashes that contain all the loot fall out of reach of the raiders. The idea is to force raiders to spend extra explosives to retrieve all the loot, such as by forcing them to blow through a sheet metal wall. However, as recently shown by Princewitz and Irish Boy, these loot rooms are not as unlootable as we thought. Once raiders get building privilege, they can retrieve the stash without destroying the walls. To do that, they need to place a box overlapping with the stash, then make the game update the building mechanics by placing a random building block, and if the box was placed correctly, the stash will move towards the raiders. If done often enough, raiders will eventually be able to loot the stash. In this video, I am proposing two new unlootable loot room designs with boxes that are immune to this counter. They take advantage of the form factor of shelves. Because shelves are short, they allow boxes to be placed in a way that stashes will fall into the loot room, rather than ending up close enough to retrieve them. I haven't seen this technique used anywhere else yet, but if you know somebody who posted this before, please send me the video so I can link to it. In this video, I will demonstrate how to build these loot rooms. I wanted to run it past your feedback to know whether it makes sense to spend the time to design a decent base around it. Shout out to Watermelon, Floppydrivedeluxe, as well as my fellow base builder Everheard for their feedback. For the loot room to work, we need to have a lowered square foundation. Here we use elevated triangle foundations around the square to achieve that in a cheap way. When placing the boxes, move them forward a bit, otherwise you won't be able to reach them. You can build two variations of this loot room. Variation A uses the top shelf for boxes as well. The unlootable loot room is created by adding two half walls, destroying the lower half wall and replacing it with a low wall. You can reach all four upper boxes through the slit. Make sure to place the upper boxes not too far forward. Otherwise, Everheard found that the stash can be captured by spamming the E key when it falls off the shelves. We did not manage to do that for the lower boxes though, so they are safe. The advantage of this design is that it's virtually impossible to get the loot of any of the boxes. The downside is that the loot room is open, hence raiders can easily destroy all the boxes and then leave. Thus, I believe this design works better in combination with chutes and traps. Variation B comes with a window frame and reinforced glass windows. To make the room unlootable, you need to add a half-height ceiling and place the upper boxes on top of it. This creates the disadvantage that the upper boxes are now lootable. The advantage that this room has, however, is that raiders need to spend explosives to even damage the boxes and cannot just destroy them easily to screw you over. Everheard also verified that neither of the designs allows to place a sleeping bag. Thus, raiders cannot circumvent the design by spawning inside the loot room. This loot room design goes very well with the concept of a suicide bunker. Place a sleeping bag on the bottom to spawn in. This allows to transfer loot from the upper boxes into the lower boxes, which are completely out of reach. This also allows to place the TC in one of the adjacent triangles, which will make it extra hard to raid it. Trap placement can help to make these rooms even more secure. Effective placements were to place the traps on the side of the door. They become even more effective if raiders have to jump up into the loot room, as it gets very hard to evade them. I think it's fair to say that raiders won't like unlootable loot rooms very much. So if they didn't bring the explosives to get to the loot, they might decide that you shouldn't keep it either and only destroy the boxes. The good news are, if you place the sleeping bag and the sleeping bag did not get destroyed, you can rebuild these loot rooms from within. Make sure that the sleeping bag is close to the entrance side. Replace the shelves if necessary. Then place a large and a small box opposite from the sleeping bag. Jump onto the middle shelf and, if you want to use traps, place it first, then place one box. If you're using the low wall half wall combination, jump onto the top shelf and place a box above the last one. Then, by jumping from the small box, place the remaining 2 boxes. If you use the window frame variation, you would of course not replace the upper 2 boxes that way. Is it worth designing a base around it? Let me know in the comments what you think about this concept. Until then, Evil Wurst, out.